When the world is crazy and you need a break, take a moment to just be, because your sanity's at stake. We each have a story and words to say. There's something that sparks us, somehow, some way. We might express ourselves through song or prose. We share with our friends both the highs and the lows. So mix your favorite drink, wrap up your day. Join our next guest to hear what sparks their way. On Cocktails and Conversations, it's more than drinks. It's fun talk the old-fashioned way that might make you think. Think of what's good, think of what's fun. Knowing life can be hard, but hope has its turn. I'm Christy Smallwood, and I welcome you in, ready for great conversation with Big Ol' Grin. Welcome, everybody, to the very first episode of Cocktails and Conversations. I am your host, Christy Smallwood. I'm very excited to have you here, simply because I have been in the mood in 2020 to just have really good, solid conversation. Not anything that's going to cause division, not anything that's going to cause people to be upset, but I want to get back to what conversation really has been for me in the past, and that's been interesting and fun, and I always learn something new. But I don't want it to be so super professional, businessy related. It doesn't have to be business conversation. I want real good conversation. So I want to learn more about the people that I have with me, and I'm very excited to introduce my very first guest, Jeff Crowe with Heaven Hill Brands. I can't wait because this is Cocktails and Conversation. And so part of the premises is that we share a drink together and we just have a great conversation. So Jeff, tell me, what did you bring to drink?
So I cheated a little bit. So all the things you said about coming together, you don't want to be professional or formal, you've chosen the right person. And the furthest from all of those things, as you well know, we've known each other for a while. So that's totally not me. So, I'm a true believer that we don't eat the same thing for dinner every night. So we can't have the same drink every night. So I started very simply with just Elijah Craig small batch, which is one of my favorites. If you've not had it, it's fantastic. I'm not a huge cocktail drinker. I do partake in them socially when I'm out, but if I'm at home, I am a big cube of ice and my bourbon, and that's what I like. So my cocktail at this very moment is a frozen cube of ice and Elijah Craig small batch. So that is what I'm drinking at the moment, but we'll talk about some other cocktails as we go along. Because like I said, you don't eat pizza every night, so you wouldn't want to drink the same bourbon every night. I even change up the bourbon choice every night. I never drink Elijah Craig 2 nights in a row.
Absolutely. I was actually looking forward to you, bringing the Wonder Woman cocktail because I have my glass already.
Oh, look at you. Look at you. Listen, I don't have, we talked about creating a Wonder Woman cocktail because, she is your mentor and I love the whole series, the Wonder Woman. I did not come up with a cocktail for you yet because I didn't know. I need to know from you like things you like, your flavor palette.
Okay.
For me, we're going to create you. It may have to be like a Woman of Wonder cocktail because that Wonder Woman word is
that's
so
licensing.
We're going to create a cocktail just for you, Christy. So when you go out and speak, you can encourage people to drink this.
Absolutely. Well, I will encourage. So here's the thing. I totally thought this through because my favorite mixed drink, believe it or not, is just straight up some Evan Williams honey and sweet tea.
There's nothing. Listen, so we have a whole line of flavors, and I'm not a huge flavor fan, but our flavors I love because you can do so many things with them. So honey is one of those that you can do a lot of great things with. We have a new peach and a new green apple that I put the green apple in lemonade and float green apples on top of it, like Granny Smith apples, cut them up and float it. People think you're so fancy and you've really done nothing except mix the two together. It's equal parts over some ice with a cute little straw. I think no drink is complete unless it has a cute straw. If you're going to make it pretty.
Make cute straws.
Find cute straws at Kroger or wherever you shop. But and all our flavors are good, but honey is easy because it gets you some vanilla bean ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
Put it in a rocks glass. Put it in the freezer so it gets really hard and the glass gets kind of frosted. When friends come over for dessert, sprinkle a little bit of chocolate on the top, pour a little bit of honey over it and serve it. It's amazing. So you don't have to just drink the product. There are lots of ways to eat the product.
And now, I know somebody who had actually used the peach in the sweet potato casserole.
Yes. And the peach is great in sweet potato casserole. The peach is great in any kind of pie, like a peach cobbler, to just add a little bolder flavor to it. And in those instances, if you're serving it to your family, the cooking process cooks most of the alcohol out of it. So you're fairly safe if you're going to serve it to your, if you're going to take it to grandma's for Christmas, you're going to be safe to do so. But yeah, there's lots of ways to cook with it. And, that's one of the things that I've been doing it for a couple of years. And Christy, you and I are friends on Facebook. I'm a big cook, not a chef. I'm a cook. And when I say that means I grab stuff out of the cabinets and like, oh my God, what am I going to make, and throw it together.
They're like amazing creations that make everybody's mouth water. And we're like, why can't we live closer to Jeff? Like, he just needs to have these parties and have people over, but not right now.
If it makes you feel any better, last night we had Subway. So we don't always eat fun, exciting foods. So, but that's been a really great coping mechanism for me and for my husband during this, is being able to cook. I'm not a great baker. If I'm going to bake, I'm going to go to a bakery and pick up a beautiful cake, because that is not my forte. But when it comes to putting flavors together, and the whole concept came from people talk about bourbon just like you do just now. And I want to be able to say, there's so many other things you can do with it. It's not just, I tell everybody it's the new sexy. It's not your grandma's drink or your grandpa's drink, and it's not Indians and cowboys drink anymore. Now it's your sister's drink, your fraternity brother's drink. It's just it has a whole new meaning. And I talk openly that a cocktail comes into play. If you get fired, you have a cocktail. If you get a promotion, you have a cocktail. If you get married, a divorce, there's always a cocktail involved. And so why shouldn't it be fun? So the good thing about cocktails, they're the same for very rich people and for very poor people. We all can enjoy a cocktail and not worry about it.
Yes. And I have learned so much. I used to work at KFC back in the day, and I was still pretty young, and I had worked at an ad agency before that. But when I got to KFC, now there was wine involved. Like, when these people would sit around the business luncheon table, they would order the wine, sometimes even at lunch, or the fancy, after the meetings, they'd go out to fancy dinners, and that everybody like knew how to choose the right wine to pair with. I felt so out of place. I didn't even know. I was like, just give me the pink one.
But you can't do that with bourbon, because you can't say, give me the brown one, because they're all brown.
They're all brown.
They're all brown.
So yeah. I learned really early that there's so many differences to alcohol in general. Pick a silo, then it has all of these different flavors in it. And once I discovered, honestly, my first real jump into anything whiskey bourbon related was my trip to Ireland, and I got to have a taste testing at Jameson.
Oh yeah. Game changer.
Yeah, that was a fabulous trip. The Lithuanian lady kept asking for more scotch. And that was a fun bus ride back to the hotel.
Everybody loves a cocktail, and I'm not a wine connoisseur either, Christy. So I've been to many fancy formal business dinners, and they're like, which wine do you prefer? And I'm like, bourbon. Because I can choose my bourbon, but when it comes to what goes with a steak or pasta, when it comes to wine, I normally look at whoever's across the table from me and go, oh, that looks amazing. I think I'll have that. Because I don't know enough about it, but I do enjoy a great red wine. I do like a red wine.
Now I know so Kristen, who works at the chamber, and I had a late afternoon meeting at Lulu, and it was a Wednesday, and they had wine specials on Wednesday. So she chose, like, her favorite wine was Meiomi, and it was a very stressful day. So, bourbon is like great on the front, but they don't have a lot of sayings to it. Not all the bourbon has their story written on the bottle, but this Meiomi had its story written on the bottle. So I started getting into my radio voice, and I read this, and she was like in her zen, me reading the wine bottle label. It was so funny.
The great thing about you asked me to do this show is it's legal for me to drink on the clock. So that's a great thing. So if you want to do this every day, Christy, I will be your guest every day.
We should totally just partner up and bring somebody in extra every so often, and then just, yeah.
I'll be your co-host.
So so I know your business really is working in the bourbon industry, yes. But before that you were tourism and all that kind of stuff. So like, you have spoken to different groups. We know you're in your dream job. Like you've always been able to work in your dream position, but if you had anything else that you would want to do, well, actually, no, that's a stupid question because you love to cook and you're just doing it. Like, aren't you making a cookbook at this point too?
I am. It's called Boozy Bourbon Chefs. I am working on a cookbook. Everybody's like, oh, I can't wait. I'm like, listen, I'm not going to be Pioneer Woman or Paula Deen. This is really just because I want a collection of when I'm 80 that I could show my children and my grandchildren and go, hey, listen, you can do anything you want to do. And I am not one of those people, you know this, that says, oh, I don't have time for that, or I'm too busy. We only have this amount of time on earth, and I'm going to use every second of it in the day to do what makes me happy. And cooking is amazing. It's what I would love to do. But back to your questions, you were headed, what would I love to do outside of what I'm doing? So it's a really bad time to say this. So I would love to be a lead politician. I would love to be able to help. I'm all about community engagement and community involvement, as you know.
Yep.
I'd love to be a politician. No, when I say a politician, I don't want to be a politician that struggles to be able to do small things. I want to be in a position where I can really make a difference to everybody. And so that would be my dream job. And so maybe when I'm older, as I get there closer every day, maybe that's where I'll hit. I don't know, because, prior to coming to Heaven Hill, I ran a 49 county tourism development association that was funded through the efforts of Congressman Hal Rogers in Southern and Eastern Kentucky. One of the most amazing men I've ever had the privilege of knowing or working with, because he always puts his people first. And I've always wanted to be a politician prior to working for him, but after working with him, it really drove that home. And so that would be my next leap of faith if I ever decide the bourbon industry is not working. But I'm not going to lie. Right now, I feel like I was born to do what I do. And I'm so grateful to work for Heaven Hill Brands, I work for the Heaven Hill Distillery component because we're on the other side of it. And, we're family owned, American operated, family operated. It's just, I never get up any morning, Christy, and go, oh, another day or another meeting. I've never had that yet. And so almost 8 years into this gig, I still am excited every day to go to work and do what we do.
So you already made a statement about we have this short amount of life. You're going to do everything in it in the day that makes you happy. So how do you enjoy the small things?
So it's going to sound cliche, but I love everything for what it is. I don't try to change things. Does that make sense? Like, I can drink Kool-Aid out of a paper cup on the side of a riverbank and have a great day doing it. So I don't set expectations for what I want to do. I wish my husband was here so he could walk through and roll his eyes right about now and be like, ah. So every day I wake up like this every day, whether it's 2 a.m., 4 a.m., I'm morning driven. I am very engaging. He is not morning driven. So I come to the house whistling and singing and playing with the dogs. And I hear him grunt and roll over.
I would be more that.
Yeah. So I get up every morning. Now that I'm home, I cook a full breakfast every morning that I'm here.
Oh, man.
So we both have got the COVID-20 going on because we cook breakfast every morning. I hate breakfast. Never been a breakfast person. Todd loves it. So that is my start to him having a good day, is trying to make him a breakfast. Some mornings it may be something very simple, like just waffles with cut up bananas on it. And some days it's gravy, biscuit, fried eggs, the whole gamut that Granny would have served us. Downfall is, during all this, I don't have a housekeeper. She is COVID scared, and so I don't have a housekeeper. So any mess I create, I clean up. So behind me, I'm strategically placed in my kitchen, so you can't see what's going on behind me. But no, I don't think that I enjoy all the small things. I just lost my father to pancreatic cancer, and he was one of my biggest mentors ever. And not because he was wealthy or powerful or any of those things. He was my dad. And so when he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, they told us that it was fixable, that we could overcome it. And so we were great with that. So we went in for the surgery, whistling and singing. It was 2 weeks before Christmas, 3.5 years ago. And they did the surgery, and the doctor came out and said, we were wrong. It is 98% of his pancreas is eat up, and we give him 3 months, 6 at maximum. And so it was a huge punch in the gut for all of us. And so we decided that we didn't want the doctor to tell Dad, that we wanted to tell Dad. And so we waited till the next day. Doctor came in with us. And of course, we all thought we were tougher than we were. We couldn't tell. And so the doctor told him, young doctor, scared to death, he looked at that, told him the whole story. My dad never moved. He never said a word. And when he got done, the doctor said, you have a lot of options. You can do chemo, which we knew my dad would not do chemo. That was not the countryman in him. And he said, you know what, doc? I've never had any of that chemo. I believe I might try it. And we were all very shocked. And when the doc got ready to leave, he said, hey, he called him doc. He said, hey, doc, just so you know, I'll decide when I die. And so 3 years into pancreatic cancer, my dad lived. He was a walking anomaly at all costs. And he would still be with us, except he got up at 3 a.m. because he needed him a little drink. And he dropped ice at mom's kitchen floor. And he went to pick it up and fell and broke his hip. So the broken hip killed him, not the cancer. And so we find great comfort in that, because we think that's the perfect way that Dad would have wanted to be remembered, is getting his ice out of the floor, cleaning up because mom was going to fuss at him. But in those 3 years, we learned every minute counted. And he reminded us every time we left him that we could not see him tomorrow. And so we learned to embrace that. And so I have 2 sisters, and we all have this same mentality now. We were pretty positive before, but we're very positive now about life and what it offers, and tomorrow won't be here. So if you got this cocktail and you got friends over tonight, enjoy it, because that could be the last time you have them. So that's how I look at the small things in life. And I learned that from my dad.
That is wonderful. Okay, so tell me a favorite story of you and your dad.
Was that sad? I wasn't trying to be sad.
No, not at all. So no, that's not sad. I tell you what, there has been one episode that broke me in my Small Business Small Talk podcast. Broke me, Jeff, broke me. I couldn't. And it was the young people who work it. Oh, I'm pointing like you can tell where I'm at. Right down the street from me, there's a senior living center, and they work there, and everybody there is family to them as young people. They're in their early 30s, and they treat them like they are their grandma and grandpa. And one guy, he's born to do it, loves what he does, but he had made almost the same type of comment. He said, he's like, my whole purpose is to come in and understand I'm probably making somebody's last day as good as it could possibly be.
Absolutely.
And I was like, oh my God. So I just feel like a warning label on that episode. It's powerful, but whenever you start to think differently about that, it just seems like all of the other crap in the world tends to melt away. Yeah. And so, yeah, the perspective, no, it's not sad at all. It's another thing that helps make you think different. So that gets us out of our own little, shit storms and ruts or whatever.
Yeah. I can remember when I was, well, of course, we grew up in the very southern eastern part of Kentucky, and to have a gay son was, I'm sure, just devastating to my mom and my dad. You would have never known it. When I was 21, I bought a florist. Now, that's every father's dream, is to say, my son owns a florist. But I remember Dad saying, do what makes you happy. And if you're happy, you'll make a lot of money at it. And my dad was the kind that if I went to him and said, Dad, I want to be a janitor, he'd have bought them up. He never discouraged us from doing what we wanted to do. I never in my life heard, oh, I want you to go to college. I want you to be a doctor. I want you to, he never, to any of us kids, he said, you'll find the right path. And we all have. And so I'm having to learn from that, because my son is 21 and he is in that moment of life when you're going down many avenues, and you got to find the right one that's good for them, not for you. And that's what Dad would always say. You do what you don't do what's good for me. So yeah, I've learned a lot from my dad. My favorite, I don't know if I have a favorite story, because my dad was truly a farmer. I mean, a good old farmer, but super smart. But about 25 years ago, when I was younger, Dad said, I've always wanted to own a country store. I was like, we should do that. And
okay.
Within 14 days, we'd bought a plot of land, and we built a store called Furnace Junction Market, and we opened it, and we served little, deli foods, fried foods, all the things you'd love to find on a country back road. We did that, and we did it for about 3 years, and we would have done it longer. But in the middle of this, at that time, my wife and my sister both became pregnant with first grandchildren. And so that became the focus of our family. Everything else went behind. The babies came first. And so we sold this. We gave the store to someone to run for us for several years before we sold it. But it was a great learning 3 years for us, because I got to spend a lot of time with my dad and see him on that business side that I wasn't privy to. And so that's probably my most memorable span of time with my dad is just because every day we talked about things that I would have never talked about, like profit and loss with my dad, or budgets, or how much we're going to spend on cigarettes this week, Dad, or we have a cooler broken. Those are not conversations the average person has with their dad. So I'm grateful for those 3 years.
Yeah, my mom and I didn't know how to really communicate well together. Like, she doesn't like the same things I do. We're not on the same page with a lot of things in life. And so when it was a couple of years ago, I rebooted the business and the whole 9 yards. And I got to a point where I'm like, I can't manage every single thing. I hate bookkeeping with a passion. So, cause it just depresses me to get in there and have to deal with the numbers. So my mom is very good at it though. So she had come up one day and I said, can you help me for 30 minutes on something? I'm like, I'm missing a number. You can find it. Will you please get in here and look at my accounts? And she got super excited. She sat down and she's like, all right. She got really into it. She's like, why do you have this? Why do you have this? And so she's like, okay, I got this. Leave me alone. I got this. So she pulled up both of my bank accounts, and within an hour, everything had been reconciled for the past 3 months. I was like, what just happened?
I need that.
So while she was working on that, I'm totally developing a new online course. And I'm like, this is how that works. And so ever since, she's been doing my bookkeeping for me. And like you, it's different levels of conversation. Now she understands my business, what I'm trying to do, from the direction that she understands. And so, yeah, that was a magical moment.
I get it. So yeah, it's different levels of communication. It makes a big difference.
Absolutely. So, okay, cook. Have you gotten like a favorite that you tend to keep going back to more often than anything else?
So a couple of things. So the cookbook really originated a couple of years ago. So he doesn't like when I tell this, so I'm glad he's not here. So my husband had a massive heart attack several years ago. And at that time, I couldn't boil water. Wasn't that I couldn't, I just never had to. My mom had always cooked. My previous wife had cooked. He loved to cook. I didn't have to cook. So when the heart attack happened, then it became evident I either had to learn how to microwave really good stuff, learn to cook, or order out. And so I'm like, let's do this. And so that's where Boozy Bourbon Chefs came from. So every week, you're standing in my kitchen now. Every week over there, I'm pointing, is the bar area. Todd would sit on that side of the bar. We would drink cocktails, and he would tell me how to cook. And so it became an every Friday and Saturday night occurrence. For a full year, we did this. And when I started learning the basics, I'm just not basic. I'm like, oh, well, then I could do that, or I can operate it here.
Hang on, you're not basic.
Yeah, so now I probably have 250 cookbooks, because I read cookbooks like everybody else reads the newspaper, because I like to take recipe A and recipe B, put them together, and then make it recipe Jeff. So a lot of things you see on my Facebook page are the good things. If you don't see it, it made it to the trash. So a lot of great things make it to the trash. But one of my favorite things that I make is one of the most simple things in the world. And it is basically a peach cobbler made with crescent rolls. And I love it. Everybody that I make it for loves it. So you basically take frozen peaches. You don't have to you just go buy frozen peaches, take the crescent rolls, roll the peach up in them, put them in your dish all pretty. Then you sugar, butter, vanilla, mix it together, pour it over them. Take a half a can of Sprite, Diet Sprite, whichever, pour it over it, sprinkle cinnamon on it, bake it. Serve it with ice cream and a little bit of peach bourbon. It's spectacular. You can do that with apple. You can do it with berries. You can do it with strawberry. You can do it with any berry you want. Just use that crescent roll. Super easy. I do it all the time now because you can roll those things and then go to family members and put it in their oven for 14 minutes. So it travels well. So that's my go-to for, like, if you need a quick dessert. I love it. Red beans and rice is my favorite meal to cook at the last minute, because if you've never had my red beans and rice, I do a lot of extra. I like yellow peppers, orange peppers, green peppers, beans, the sausage, hot sauce, and I do it all in the thing. So when you get done, you can put it over rice. But if you're not in the rice mood, you can put that over a baked potato. If you're not in that mood, you can bake some cornbread and cover the cornbread in a bowl. So it's very diverse for me. Lots of things for me to do. It's so bad that sometimes Todd will be like, I guess we're having red beans and rice again. But so right now, since January 1, we have tried to become healthier. So the past couple of nights we've made Caesar salads with grilled chicken. Last night I did baked potatoes stuffed with buffalo cauliflower and a little drizzle of fat-free ranch. It's just a different way of eating. A baked potato is never going to taste like a cheeseburger. So once you realize and you're okay with that, it's a much simpler way to eat. So I'm allergic to turkey. Todd is allergic to shellfish, and our son has celiac disease. So cooking for us is a challenge even before we open the first refrigerator door. So we've had to learn all those ways to work around them. And so that between that and Todd having a heart attack is the reason I'm trying to learn to cook and bring good food to the table that you don't have to spend all night on. Like my grandmother would have never used a box cake for anything. Well, that's silly. That's like saying I'm not going to use my microwave. I'm going to cook up on the stove. There's a convenience factor there. So I want people to understand you can have really great, healthy, good food and buy some of it at the grocery store ready. I have no problem with that. So that's kind of the concept of the cookbook. And it is called, here, look here. I even have the cutting board. My staff bought me this cutting board for Christmas and I love it. It's my prized possession. So as you can tell, it's not been used because I refuse to use it because I love it. So it's the only thing in my kitchen that's actually clean. That and my rocks glass. My rocks glass is clean.
Right. So, okay, where's your favorite place you've ever visited?
So I'm going to tell you Thailand and Hong Kong. If I have to go outside the United States constraints, because it's not what people think it's going to be. Hong Kong is the cleanest place I've ever been in my life.
Really?
I've never seen, I don't know what my preconceived notion was, but when we got there, unemployment rate is really low because everybody has a job. So if you see one man fixing a pothole, you see 7. If you see one man cleaning a window, you see 7 because that's how they keep their industries going. So it was very, very clean, very friendly. We went to Thailand at the end of that trip and spent another 7 days. Thailand was my kind of town because it was party city from day one. So the one thing that I tell Jacoby, who's my son, who's 21, that even when dad is 60, I will party as hard as you do because I love it. I love to have a good time. I love a great cocktail. I love music. I love friends. I love laughter. So Thailand was all about it. Every city block was a party happening every night. So it wasn't nearly as clean as Hong Kong, but it definitely left an impact on me.
That's amazing.
But if I had to choose anywhere in the United States that I could live or be, this is going to be bad when I say this, I would live in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. We go twice a month, every month, because we love it. We don't go to shop. We go to eat, enjoy the sights. Sometimes we just people watch. There's just a calming effect for me and for Todd when we're in Tennessee. And so we are actively now searching for either a small apartment or somewhere that we can buy to be a getaway for us because we're spending so much in hotel rooms. That would be my place to move if I had to move from here.
I do love Gatlinburg area. That's where I went for my birthday. I rented a cabin for myself. It had all of the stuff on site. I had a pool table. I had the hot tub. I had the view, and I did all of my planning. I had whiteboards everywhere. So it's like perfect for me.
So we love to go to the outlets, and there is a restaurant in the middle called Chop House. And so we will shop this section, and then we have bourbon, and then we'll shop this section. And so we do it by sections and cocktails, and we do it so much that the bartender knows who we are, knows when we come in to just sit them up there. So, and some days we buy nothing other than cocktails, but it's just everybody that's there. It's kind of being at Disney. Everybody's happy. Nobody's unhappy to be there, and so I love that aspect. And so so maybe next time we do this, I'll be in my fancy 1-bedroom apartment in Gatlinburg.
Who knows?
Who knows?
So if you had anything that you wanted to share wisdom with somebody, what would it be?
Don't be what everybody wants you to be. Be what you were meant to be.
What if somebody doesn't know? Okay, I'm a strategist. I'm a coach. People come to me for this. But there's so many people who are like, what if I don't know what I'm meant to be? What if I don't know?
I might be wrong. I think everybody knows what they are meant to be or what they should be doing because they know what they enjoy. I'm going to go back to my son who's struggling with what he's going to do in life. He's an amazing soccer player, loves the kids, loves everything about the kids. He teaches 3 traveling teams, but he doesn't know what he wants to do in life. And I'm like, really? It's in front of you. The downfall is somewhere someone has planted that being a coach will not make him rich or will not make him a lot of money or do it. I think we plant things in people that everybody thinks being successful is wrapped around money or a big house or a fancy car. And it's not. It's about being happy. We don't live in a huge home, but it's our home. And I enjoy coming home to it every day. But my dad told me years ago, my mom actually told me, my dad validated that one day my mouth and my voice would make me money. And I knew it wasn't going to be with singing. So, and he was right. Who would have thought that I get paid to do community speaking and community engagement, community involvement, and I love it. And I never bow away from it because I never try to be something that I'm not. I'm one of the, I'm 51 years old. I've always known my entire life that I was a gay man stuck in this world. And so when I realized that the only people in the world that I had to worry about what they thought about me was my mother and my son and myself, we were good. And my dad, of course. But once I embraced that, and I went and told my dad I wanted to own a florist, and I took that florist and ran with it because that's what and he said, I told you, do what you loved. He said, I've watched you tie bows and decorate Christmas trees since you were 12 years old. It's always been in front of you. But sometimes we don't know that's what it is. So I think everybody in their mind knows what it is. Maybe it's a lawn maintenance company and you mow yards, but who wants to say, oh, I'm going to grow to be a yard mower? Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you love being outside and you love that look, the gentlemen that mow my yard are so meticulous. I'm amazed. It's an art form. He makes a great living doing it and loves it. He says he would never be in an office. So I think sometimes we're so worried of thinking what people want us to be or what the perception will be when we go to our 10-year reunion. If we do this or this, worry about what you're going to do because you have to come home to you every day. When you get out of the shower, you look at you in the mirror. And so you got to have the integrity of who you are behind it.
I agree with all of that. Absolutely. I still am not quite exactly where I want to be. For me, I personally hate marketing. I hate it, but I'm really good at it. And I think it's Darren Hardy puts it in the, what are you fighting for? Like, what is the thing that you hate that drives passion for you? And then what's the thing that you love that drives passion for you? So 2 sides of that coin. Well, I hate marketing in general in the sense of it's so manipulative, and I want to help businesses navigate the manipulation so that they can actually generate quality leads to build business. That's great. But that's not where I love to live. Where I love to live is doing stuff like this. I love, like you, I know I'm going to do something good with my voice, and I've already failed at singing. So why not try it?
So if you know that you hate marketing, but you're really good at it, then take marketing in the direction that you love. So find a way to make marketing a whole different level of what you are. And what you're doing is great. I changed on you. Sorry. I changed to a different
product. I was like, what bottle is that?
So this is Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. I tore the top part off of it trying to get it open earlier.
Is that what you posted last night? Because I've not seen that.
It is. So it's 100 proof, Bottled and Bond. So for the money, it's a great cocktail. It makes great old fashions, all those type of things. So yeah, check it out.
Nice.
So what were we even talking about, Christy? I got sidetracked by my bourbon.
Making marketing what I wanted to be. I do an educational series. I would much rather teach people than actually do the stuff. So I'm moving at least that portion of it in that way. So I'm still speaking and being smart about it, but I love to speak. I love to be the performer out front. Ta-da.
Yeah, maybe you do what you're doing now, but take main players in these big industries because people want to know who's there and market them that way. Like I'd much rather buy bourbon from a face that I know and a personality that I heard from. So maybe you take what you're doing now and create this whole one-on-one marketing concept where you go into the homes of the owners of Heaven Hill and people want to know who they are and realize that they are real people that work just like we do. Sometimes people forget that they see these huge companies and they forget that a real person sits at the head of that. They think it's all computerized or those people are so wealthy. They just dial in from home. They don't really work. Sometimes it's nice to know that they are people just like us.
Yeah.
It's nice to see them with their dog or with dirty dishes in their sink. And I don't think there's any in there. I had to look after I said that. I think it's a great concept. Like I would love to watch your show and learn about another industry or what they're doing, or I'd much rather buy from a shoe company where I got to see their CEO talk about he cried at his dad's funeral, or he goes to his little girl's soccer team and coaches, because then he becomes real. So that might be a great twist. But if you get rich off of it, I just need a little bit.
You get the proceeds.
I'm not greedy. I'll share.
Because I was going to talk to you at some point about like the whole tourism aspects, like some insights into what does that industry really need to take it to a whole new level. Like I understand, because especially now when there's so many restrictions and everything, it's like, what are we even allowed to do anymore? And how can tourism tap into that? And how does somebody like me who loves to do things like this bring something like this to help that? That was one of the conversations that I wanted to be able to, have off record kind of thing.
No, tourism is one of those words when you say it, people go, I don't know what that is. They hear the word, but they don't know what it means. They don't realize that it's tax revenue and it's heads in beds at night and it's restaurants filled. You can be a tourist in your own community, support your own restaurants, support your own people, because that money comes back into your community. So I think there's ways to make people realize that even during COVID, that we're shut, lots of things are shut down. There's still ways to keep that tourism dollar flowing, because every time you don't go out to dinner, even in your own hometown, someone's going to suffer in 10 years from that, because that money recirculates in your community. And when you stop that recirculation, no matter how small it is, there is an impact. There's a ripple effect. And so when I did the 49 counties for Southern and Eastern Kentucky, and I would go out and speak, people would be like, what do you have there? What is there? And I'm like, have you ever been? Don't judge us until you've been here. And I don't speak as much now, but I used to speak to lots of small communities. And I would go in and I'd say, how many of you all in here have walked your own streets in the past 6 months? Nobody. Because we have created a cult of, even my son, your family, we don't want to, oh, I like your shirt. Oh, I went to Lexington and bought it. No one wants to say I bought it in downtown London, Kentucky, because boy, that doesn't sound fancy. It's the same shirt. So yes, it's probably $2 more expensive here in downtown London, but it's also your neighbor that you're supporting. So we have to educate people that being proud of where you're from isn't just living there. It's being a part of there. And, you'll see me many times, most of the time, in logo wear. And my son hates it. It drives him crazy. But I'm very proud of this brand. I'm very proud of all the companies I work for. So I wear logo wear a lot because it engages conversation no matter where I go. A flight attendant, when my boss and I were flying back from California, said, oh my gosh, I love Elijah Craig. I want to go there. And I was like, really? Well, let me tell you what I do. So I gave him a business card. It starts conversation. And so if you wear a shirt that says London, Kentucky, don't be ashamed of that. Be proud of that, because someone's going to say, I've never heard of London. Where's that? That's how you get people to be proud of where you're from. If you don't love it, why would anybody else love it? There's lots of engagement ideas that you and I can talk about offline on ways to make people proud of where they're from, instead of saying, there's nothing to do here.
There's so much. So one of my favorites, I try to do something big for my birthday every year. And even if
I wasn't invited to the party, I just want you to know. I'm marking it down, because you've already been to Lulu's for lunch. You told me that. I wasn't invited. Now I'm not invited to your birthday. It's a good thing I've already committed to this show, Christy.
That's right. I hooked you in before I told you about all this stuff. But so you'll be proud of this one, because this one came from, this was the bad dating stuff. But I always take a good point away from dating. I always learn something. But I was struggling one year. I think it was my 40th birthday. So I too am a little seasoned. Because that's been years ago now. But he was like, because I wanted to go to Greece. Like my 30th birthday, I got to go to Ireland. I wanted to go to Greece. I wanted to be a big deal. It's hard to get to Greece on $20. So I didn't have what I needed to get there.
You can rent the movie Grease for $9, but you can't get to Greece for $20.
Right. But I don't know if people are aware, but you can pretty much travel the world within Kentucky.
Yes.
I don't know that people really understand that. I mean, there is an Athens, Kentucky. It's a 4-way stop with the ball field, but it's here.
There's a Paris.
And so it's Paris and London and Manchester and Sparta and like all of these things.
Versailles or Versailles.
However you want to say it. Florence, y'all.
Right.
So I planned out this around the world trip all within Kentucky. And then also went to, because Nashville, Tennessee has the Centennial Park that has the museum that is, right. And it has the Athena statue in there. And it's just, I was like, perfect. And then I drove myself, it was just perfect weekend. In Vevey, Indiana, they had the Swiss Wine Festival, Switzerland County. And then I went over to Cincinnati to the Jungle Gems International Food Market and got myself from some wine and hummus and olives and, you know, very Greek Mediterranean type of meal, and come home. And although I did not like that Greek wine, that was not my favorite.
But you had a good time. You made your own way.
Great time.
It makes me crazy. People say, I don't have anything to do. I'm like, really? Get in your car and drive 5 miles from your house. There's something to do.
There's always something to do.
Always, even if it's just eating at a great local restaurant and eating a great local meal. You know, you don't have to go to a chain to eat. You can go to a great local place that's such great flavor and stories. You just have to look for them.
See, and this is where one of the reasons I wanted to start this thing, because I love the stories. I love this conversation. I love to learn more. So if you had a place that you would, you know, highly recommend for a favorite meal, where would that be? Besides your own kitchen, I get it. I understand.
Oh my gosh, Christy, there's been, we've traveled everywhere. Let's see so this is not an elaborate meal, but I will tell you my favorite place to go eat. And it's probably even a chain. I don't even know. It's called the Blue Moose, and it's in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And Todd and I stumbled upon it about 10 years ago, and they had fishbowl beers. They had fishbowl beers and hot wings, and I love buffalo wings of any kind. And they have the best. But what I loved the most was it was probably the first time in Todd and I's relationship where we communicated and laughed and didn't talk about anything business. And when we got in the car and left, he goes, "Do you realize we just spent 2 hours in there and we didn't do anything but laugh and drink?" And I was like, "We did." And so we always go back there. So I don't know that so much that I would say, "Oh, it's the best food I've ever eaten," but it definitely is a connection for us. And we still go back. We faithfully go back every time we go to Tennessee. So if you go, get the fishbowl beer, pretty big, ice cold, and then we get the sampler platter of wings because I like them to make you sweat, and Todd does not. So. But that's
just fine.
Yeah, not an amazing meal, but it was a great meal that I always think about when I go that way.
Well, have you found, okay, so let's think about this for a second. Don't you find that is kind of the case? It's not just the food that's great, it's the experience that goes with it. Like whatever memory you've attached to that spot, that's why you keep liking to go back. Because my favorite restaurant in all of Disney, because I love to go to Disney, it's my escape, is the Sci-Fi Diner. And like the food is not the most excellent at the Sci-Fi Diner, but the experience is out of this world amazing. It puts you in a 50s drive-in theater experience, and I'm watching black and white cartoons on this big screen. It's amazing.
Yeah. We watch a lot of Food Network, obviously because of me, but we may drive to Prestonsburg tomorrow on a whim, but we'll call the tourism office there or whatever their chamber and say, "What's your number one family-owned restaurant?" In Manchester, there's Pat's Burgers. Great burgers. It's not a chain. Go support that local guy. And no, it may not be the best burger, but when you're in there, the people you meet, the things you learn, the things you see, by far outweigh what you're eating anyway.
I love that idea. Call a local chamber and ask.
Just say, what's your, some of them say, I love when I call and they'll say, "Oh, we've got a brand new O'Charlie's." I'm like, "No, I want to do something different." And so back when I worked in the tourism agency, and I would drive, because I drove a lot, 49 counties, I did lots of cities. And so my number one target was McDonald's. Love McDonald's, love their Diet Coke. Just so we know, that's a must have. I would go through the drive-thru, never malicious, and just say, when I get to the drive-thru, "I am in town tonight for work. What's there to do?" And the diversity of answers that I've gotten over the years, but my favorite was a little girl in a town that had very little, if anything, to offer. She made me think they were Nashville, Tennessee. She was like, "Oh, you're going to go down here. This one has the best this one has the best." Honey, and at night, there's a group of men that sit out on the gas station parking lot and play music. They just go down there and hang out. She didn't one moment say there was nothing to do in that town. And I did what she said. The gas station had three little gentlemen, older gentlemen, that picked their music in the parking lot on top of little plastic barrels. I didn't stay a long time, about 20 minutes, but it was amazing to see. And I thought she can see the best in her community. And I went back to that McDonald's the next trip through. She was still there. And I gave her a certificate and thanked her for that. She had no idea what that meant, but it made me feel really good to do that for her. And because, she could have told me a lot of things, but she did not. She made me feel very good about being there. And so I still do that when I go places. I'll be like, now I do things like, what's your favorite distillery close by? Just to see what they say.
Right.
And a lot of them will say, we don't have a distillery. And I'm like, really? You're one exit up from one. But because people don't know their own neighborhoods is what I've learned. And you've learned that, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. We're so busy looking at this, we forgot to look at this picture. And so I always encourage people to slow down between your house and your supermarket or your groceries, wherever. What's between those two? What could you take people to visit? We have a great little country store that just opened on our road that's owned by some local families. And I had to stop in the other day because I was nosy. Wow. Homemade soup, homemade candy, you name it, they have it. I came out with $75 worth of absolutely nothing I needed. But I came home with things like green onion cheese that I'd never seen before.
Green onion cheese?
Never heard of it. Have you ever had green onion, like French onion dip?
Yeah.
It had a very similar taste, a little more bold on the cheese side. I put it on a cheeseburger. It was fabulous. Now January 1 rolled around, there's no more cheeseburgers in my house. So I'm going to have to do the dogs may get the cheese. But don't look for reasons not to like where you live. Look for reasons to love where you live.
I love that advice too. Okay, Jeff, you've been fantastic. We are going to wrap this up because I do want to keep this one less than an hour for people, even though I want to suck them in and they just want more and more and more. So we'll have to do it again at some point.
We'll do it again. We'll do it. Hey, listen, we'll do it in the summer. We'll do it outside by the pool. And I will, we'll make cocktails. And I promise to wear a shirt the whole time. Nobody deserves that.
We get little umbrellas for the drinks, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll make bourbon Bloody Marys. We'll make fun stuff out of bourbon. The things that people don't think you can make with bourbon, we will definitely make it. We may even grill some bourbon burgers.
So let me know, because I have one of my clients is Charcoal and More, and I can hook you up with all kinds of but do you grill with gas or do you grill on charcoal?
I grill with both. So it depends on what I'm making. So I have a couple different, because Kobe's got celiac disease. So we have to have a couple different grills. We can't grill our food on his. So we have 4 grills outside.
Oh, my.
So we like to eat. I don't have, I can't help it. I also have a Yeti cooler sitting in my kitchen floor, if that makes you feel any better about my lifestyle. Life is short. Enjoy it. And I always tell people, we don't live fancy here, but we live fun. And that's, I think, what makes life worth living. If you're not having fun, you need to reevaluate where you're going.
And on that, I think that is a great place to stop, because I agree with that statement so much for my own year of 21. And part of my own personal hashtag is so much fun in 21. So with that, Jeff, thank you so much for being my first guest for this. For those who are listening, watching, join us again. I don't know who the next guest is going to be yet. I haven't scheduled everybody, but probably the chamber staff, because they're like, we want to do that again. And to have 4 of us in a room.
That'd be fun. I'm all about fun. So let me know, because I want to watch. And you're welcome to edit this video as much as you want, but you should just keep it all.
I'm just going to keep it all. That's kind of the fun of doing these this way. Okay, so quick side note, I'm in podcast groups. And so, we talk about things that we should be, and everybody gets so worked up about, I have to edit this and I have to remove that. And, I was like, why are you spending so much time taking stuff out? That's part of the fun of seeing what happens live. This is a pretty much live.
Side note too. So my husband's like, you're bringing them into the kitchen? Are you going to clean it? Are you going to fix these 2 lights? I'm like, no, I'm a real person. We're all real. They need to see that I have lights out in my kitchen that doesn't bother me. And I do have some dirty dishes now that I've looked. I don't care,
I can't see the dirty dishes.
Well,
And
that's
just
good.
so Todd knows, I would never have known about those lights until you pointed them out, because I'm sitting here staring at you and I have not paid attention to that whatsoever.
Well, this is a dirty dish that I made soup in that has not been washed yet. It just looks pretty. So
It looks very pretty.
we're all just real people, and that's what it should be focused on.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for this very first episode of Cocktails and Conversations. Join us again next month whenever I have my next guests, and we'll have more great conversation.